What's up, everybody? We are here live on the Transformer Slag podcast. We're doing a special edition this time around, celebrating a convention that would have happened this weekend but didn't. Canada's second largest Transformer convention, Ener-Con, would have been this weekend. 2 days of that. And, well, not happening, unfortunately, because of the big V and everything that's happening in the world. So I figured today we're going to have a special episode. We have a guest with us today. We have one of the premier females of the Transformer fandom, in that of Christina, with us today. And yeah, so I figured we were going to just take some super chat questions, talk about the fandom, talk about being in the fandom, and, you know, just because we're doing the Ener-Con kind of weekend thing, just talking about conventions and the socializing factor of it. So once again, thank you, Christina, for being here.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Her connection might be a little wonky, but I mean, this is one of the first times we've really had a guest on the show that's done with video. We're going to try to make this a regular thing in the future. Like I said, all the little things we get, super chats and Patreon and stuff like that, it goes a long way towards upgrading this crazy rig of a system that I cobble together every time. But so yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about essentially you, and we're gonna talk about when did you first get into the Transformer fandom? Like, when did you first well, let's even dial it back a little more. When did you first discover Transformers in any shape or form, even mildly?
Okay, so it's quite funny because the earliest memory I have of Transformers was watching episodes of G2 at the ripe old age of 2, because there were reruns of it, and I wouldn't have most memory of it, but my cousins told me about what G2 was, which was really just G1 done with a new chapter, like a new chapter animation. And that was literally my first exposure to it. But my real exposure to it was back in '96. YTV aired Beast Wars, also known as Beasties in Canada, and they basically was a whole new show. I was watching Reboot before, and that was a previous project that was done by Mainframe, who did Beast Wars, who did Shadow Raiders, and all that stuff. And I was so enthralled by the animation. Now, the thing is, I didn't watch the very first episode, which was on September 16, because that was the day my brother was born, so I was at the hospital at the time. But the day afterwards, I was brought home. I was going to go watch an episode of Reboot because it was going to be airing at 8 o'clock, but instead they showed Beast Wars Part 2, and I saw the scene where Dinobot and Primal were going to duke it out, and I was just floored with it, and I've been watching the series ever since. But hold on. Hold on. I didn't get into this fandom until 2005, when YTV re-aired all of Beast Wars' syndication at 8:30 Eastern Time. So, because they had to fulfill their Canadian content, which was a lot more stricter than it is now. For anybody that's outside of Canada, the Canadian Telecommunications Committee has a strict code for a lot of TV broadcasters, especially with children's programming, that you have to air about 80% of Canadian content. So most of the renaissance of Canadian content back then was in the mid-aughts, which is they were airing Reboot, they were airing Beast Wars, they were airing Shadow Raiders, they were airing a lot of other Canadian made stuff just to fulfill it. And a lot of people around my age, which was around between the ages of 13 to 16, were rediscovering all of this stuff, and they're going, oh, I had such a nostalgia for it, and that's where I started to dive into this fandom.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because I also remember not seeing the first episode of Beast Wars for whatever reason and catching the second one. And again, anyone who remembers Beast Wars Part 2, the second episode, it starts with that Dinobot Primal fight, and I just remember wanting to get the toys and going why isn't he a bat? Because that's what I remember, was Optimus Primal was a bat, Megatron was a crocodile, that Cheetor character was there. the Rat Trap character was there, the Rhinox character was there, but no, those, it was just, I remember that very early. So you discovered, and you mentioned the reruns essentially that YTV used to do, because for people that aren't Canadian, YTV used to play Beast Wars religiously until, man, I want to say like 2003, and then they would play it at 11 o'clock at night even. It obviously was being played at one point daily, I remember, just like late night. And I don't know, when did you really start deciding to jump into the fandom and start I guess message boards, communicating with people, that kind of stuff?
So, at around the time I was in high school and we had access to computers, I also had a computer with a working internet in 2003. And later on, because I was watching a lot of other stuff, a lot of other cartoons and anime, but I didn't really get into Transformers in the internet until a little bit after, around 2005. And that was during the Don Murphy forum days. If anybody has ever remembered that, when Transformers the movie was starting to become more cemented, there was a little message board forum that Don Murphy and Paramount has created, and I started getting in there. A little before that, I went into this fan-made GeoSites message board called the Beast Wars International, and it was heavily run, moderated, and discussed among the female portions of the fandom who grew up with G1, who grew up with Beast Wars, and were currently also watching the other shows. And that was my first exposure to not only the female fandom, but the fandom in general. We were all having discussions about it. I was reading up interviews of cast and crew. I was trying to get immersed in it. And then I discovered the Wikipedia and Transformers Wiki, and then also reading back and forth with what Wikipedia put up. And it really I just went on a deep dive the moment I entered into the Don Murphy forum, and it all kind of snowballed from there.
Oh yeah, and especially for there's the portion of the Transformer fandom in Canada where when the movies first started to roll out, we didn't really have our own dedicated website. We kind of were an offshoot of TFW 2005. It was a Canadian section. And then Cybertron.ca was born. And that kind of became a hub for a lot of Canadian fans that just wanted to communicate with other Canadian fans, organize meetups, organize sales, and everything like that. And it was just, first time I met you was, I want to say, it wasn't even a Transformer convention, but it was a convention that was it was run across the street from where TFCon used to be back in the day. Because for people who don't know, TFCon used to be run at the DoubleTree in Toronto, Mississauga, and across the street from it was Anime North, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is the largest anime convention in North America. Is that correct?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
That's what they always say. So I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've always read somewhere. So, and I would go to that show sometimes because Anime North had a deal with TFCon where they would kind of trade tables. We give you a table at our show, you get a table at our show. And so for the people like me who was an anime fan and, some of those guests, they cross-pollinate. Oh, hey, this guy did Transformer stuff, but he's also an anime voice actor. So for someone like me, it was cool to do those shows because I get to meet different voice actors and stuff. And anime, I like anime too, so there's a lot of different things I could go and enjoy. But I think I remember I was in line for, correct me if I'm wrong with his name because I'm always bad with the Japanese names, but it was the voice actor for me, I was in it for Gao Geiger. He was also the Japanese voice actor of Rampage. I forget his name. You'll have to correct me if I think it's Hiroyosa Uba.
Hayama.
Yeah.
No, that's
there you go.
Nobuyuki Hayama. That's who we
there you go.
met
So
in
I knew
2000 and I want to say 10 or 9. I think it's 2010. Anime North.
Let me think of what I bought, and that might help me get an idea. What did I buy that weekend? I think I bought some Mortal Kombat stuff. by Jazzware.
I know that like I personally because back when I used to back when I had a DeviantArt account, I still do, but
Yeah,
it's like completely like an
yeah, me
archive
too.
at this point. I had the photo with the actual date of like when this
So
was
there you go. So
taken.
it's
So
somewhere in that bubble. But that was like the first time I met you, and I remember we were in line for that dude, and then I think the next time I met you was also, I think, again another non Transformer convention, but again same kind of goals, because it was we were both in line for a creator that has Transformer origins but other stuff too, and that was Mr.
Mhm.
Wolverine. I forget his name. Oh my god, I'm so bad with Len Wynn. Thank
Len
you. Who
Wayne.
worked on Transformers? He worked on G1. He worked on Beast Wars. He worked on Beast Machines. And of course, he's also kind of a co-creator of Wolverine. And if you're Canadian, you kind of have to like Wolverine by default. That's kind of the law in our country. He's our Captain Canada. And so we were in line for that, and so we talked and stuff, and we got to know each other more. And then I want to say it was TFCon 2011. I want to say it was whichever was the one that had
Hmm.
Derek Wyatt come the first time. Um,
That was yes, he did come. He did come in for 2000 and he did come in for 2010 and 2009.
oh, that's true too.
Um, us meeting Len Wen was in Fan Expo 2009, and Derek Wyatt was around 2009, which technically I met you
Okay.
there because you had ran a panel about
Oh
Japanese
right. See, I'm
Transformers.
it all blends together with
My
me. That's why, like, if you even asked me when I did that panel, I wouldn't even know. Like, the only way that I'd be able to guess was it was the old location. So that would be the only way for me to remember, and that'd be like, okay, 2010 and below, before we stopped doing the DoubleTree. Yeah, that was one of my
yeah,
first
because
panels.
my earliest memory of you, and it's hilarious, because I was watching that panel with Derek Wyatt, because I was curious about it, and I actually kind of dragged him to come with me to like see it. My earliest memory of you was that in the center of like that panel, like where the chairs were, there was a little table, and you had the Kiss Play Rodimus
Which I still
displayed.
have to this day. It's that exact same one that people can't see because the lighting is so bad. But yeah, I think I had bought it that day. It was just pure coincidence where it was like I had bought it that day, and the seller that sold it to me, I want to say it was Dark Rage. He even had the case that they came in, so it's like I have like this
Hmm.
giant Japanese like shipping case that says Kissplay on the side and says Marissa Fairborn and Xiao Xiao. And I remember buying it, and he's like, well, I opened it up once, and then I put some repro labels on it. They're not bad repro labels, so you could just peel them off. So I remember like bringing the case upstairs, but bringing the box and the figure downstairs and slowly peeling off each one of these repro labels, because I personally am not a fan of them. And uh, and just like going, okay, well, since I have it with me and it's a Japanese panel anyhow, I'm just going to leave it on this table here. A lot of my panels, it's kind of funny. There's a lot of photos of me for doing panels, and there's some kind of tchotchke always on like one of the tables there, and it's always like whatever I bought that moment. Like I remember I did like a TFCon staff panel, and it's like everyone's sitting up there with me, and there's like G1 Thunder Clash for some reason. It's just there, and it's because that's what I bought, before the deal room was closing
Hmm.
that day. That happens a lot. There's another one I did a panel with Aaron Archer, and if you look in the background, you see the Street Fighter versus Transformer stuff in the background. There's like Chung Li and Ken, their molds, and it's like, why is that there? Isn't this like an Armada panel? Like that doesn't make sense. But yeah, like yeah, I always used to, I don't know, I always bring weird stuff. I don't, because for anyone who's been to TFCon Toronto, where the convention is and getting back to your room is such a walk. It's like you got to go all the way down the hall, all the way down the other hall, up the towers, and then straight to your room. And it's like 20 minutes. It feels like if you're a slow walker, just so it would be like 40
Hmm.
minutes just to get back. So I just feel like, oh, screw it, I'm just gonna carry it with me. But yeah, so afterwards, so you really like got into the fandom. People started to know who you were and stuff. What would you say is your favorite Transformers series out of all of them, if you had to pick one?
Well, Beast Wars, of course, is very close to my heart. I would say animated is also up there. Rescue Bots is also another one. I'm very, very selective when it comes to like my Transformers shows. And I know that like there's some stuff that I never gave a chance and I'm starting to like get back into it right now. One of them being like Beast Wars Second. I've trying to like slowly get through the subs. And Card Robots is another one. And I have not seen the new Cyberverse show as of yet. And the upcoming
it's a quick watch.
Upcoming one.
It's a quick watch.
It is.
A lot of people.
I've heard some things.
A lot of people that kind of like didn't watch it as it was coming out and now are binging it. They're going like, wow, like when you binge it, because it makes you realize just how like small it is, because they're 10-minute episodes. It's like, oh, it's 3 seasons, and you go, wow, 3 seasons, and you just have this built-in kind of thinking where it's like, oh yeah, half-hour episodes, 3 seasons. But no, because it's 3 seasons and they're 13 episodes each, and they're each like 10 minutes, and you cut off 2 minutes of those 10 minutes because of intros and outros, and in the end you just get this like super condensed series that passes really quickly. So you'll like, it's a good series, you'll probably like it, but it's I always compare it to, it's like, imagine if season 1 of Beast Wars came out and that's all we got. Like, we just got those 26 episodes, and then that was it, and nothing else. And that's kind of how it felt, where it was just like, it felt like it was like a 26 episode series, even though it's labeled as 3 seasons, but it's really like 26 episodes of half-hour content. And I don't know, it's good, but at the same time, I feel like it didn't, it's a story that's not over, so I feel like I still can't judge it properly. That's kind of
exactly. And another thing is that I believe that from what I got from people commenting about it is that it was intended to be a show that you had to binge upon. It's not something that you could watch as a weekly series. So that's also a whole other factor. And I know that that's a huge thing that's changing a lot in North American media.
Television.
Just bingeable television. Now, I'm from a much older generation where, like, back in the day, you watch something once a week, and I am still that type of person that's not willing to binge a show. At most, I could watch at least once a day. So I'm quite thankful that something along the lines of, like, The Mandalorian on Disney Plus is broadcasting their show once a week. So that, like, I can't see something...
Oh, I'm with you totally. And I find that when you binge something, the impact of what you watched is not as strong, because I find that like there's maybe in my life I've probably only binged maybe like 2 or 3 shows, unless I'm counting anime, like, oh, I watched this old anime and all 52 episodes are at my disposal. But I find like what TV series is, when you binge them, you almost forget, like, what was that episode that was really good? Was it episode 3 or 12? Like it all just kind of becomes one giant mush. And where something that's weekly, you could watch that episode, like digest it, talk about it. You have a whole week before the next episode comes, so you could speculate with other fans. And it's just something that, the way that I see it is, I'm like the new Transformers Siege series that came out. I mean, there's all kinds of different criticisms. I give it a solid 7 out of 10. It's not a terrible series, but it is a product of that binging / Netflix kind of environment, where you just kind of have to just plow through it and then forget that you ever ate it. You know what I mean? Like, it's
exactly
the thing that I hate, and this is like, just not to go off topic, but it's like the thing that I hate is when I have friends that are like, hey, or even my sister's like a huge Netflix binging person. She's like, oh, recommend a series to me. And I'll be like, oh, well, here's this one that's 52 episodes. And like 2 days later, she gets back to me and she's like, all right, I finished it. What's the next thing to watch? And it's like, wow, like to them, it's just like a meal. It's just like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? It's like, well, what did you think of it? Did you like it? What did you think of episode 32? What about this character? Like, to them, it's like, it's not so much an enjoyable experience, but it's fuel. They just got to keep entertained for that moment, until the next thing, like to almost like be numb. I don't even know, like I don't want to get too deep on it, but it's like that's how I've always felt about when it comes to like bingeable content. And a lot of shows that you watch them, and when you watch them, like you watch them and you go, man, like these were made to be bingeable. Like they were not made that you watch that episode and then go a week without watching it. Like you could tell that they intended for you to know everything that happened last episode as if it happened 5 minutes ago in your mind, which is how bingeable content is written. And yeah, Cyberverse, 200% that. 200%. It's because it's like they don't got time to like do character development or remind you of what you just saw. It's like the most you'll get is like when you come back from a commercial break, they might remind you what happened 5 seconds before, that you know, that eye catch. But otherwise it's there were some good ideas. I liked the series as a whole. It was a lot better than the previous series, Transformers Robots in Disguise 2015 or 2.0, whatever the fandom wants to call it. I wasn't a fan of that one, even though that was technically the last Transformer series to now be done for television in that half-hour format. And I still feel that, I feel that Siege is probably a stronger reflection of what the future of our brand might be, because the way that I see it is we're going to be not really marketing to kids anymore, not really marketing to an audience that's watching television. Everything is streaming, everything is watching online, and they go, well, you know, Cyberverse is, you know, that younger demo, and look how we marketed the toys. We didn't really have like proper deluxe toys. We had these like warrior classes, and then later on they gave us deluxes and stuff. But the point being is just like the way that I see it is that I'm very curious the evolution of how storytelling in an animated form will be for Transformers, because all we know at this point is we know we have Earthrise coming. That's the next thing.
Yep.
It's going to be another 6-episode thing. From what I saw from the trailers, it looks more or less like it's more of the same. And I don't want to insult it, but that's what it kind of feels like. It's just more of the same. Good or bad, take from it what you will. If you really enjoyed it, then hey, it's more of the same. If you really hated it, well, it's more of the same, you know? And we have no indication of what will be in terms of a TV series kind of stuff, what the next sub-toy line is going to be. You know, we always had, like, after 2006, we always had, like, Classics was happening, and whatever was the main line was happening, whether it be, you know, Transformers Cybertron in 2006 when Classics just had started, or you know, the movie stuff was always happening on the side too. But like in the case of animated or Transformers Prime, we always had that TV series toy line, and then of course Rescue Bots came into that too. But that's even now Rescue Bots is done. You know, like they stopped Rescue Bots, which got the title of the longest running Transformer series, which is crazy when you think about it. Surpassing G1 at 98 episodes. I think it ended at 125, I want to say, Rescue Bots, but
I believe so. I cannot recall how many episodes, because again, it was a long time since I've seen it, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
So now the next question then is, so you have your favorite Transformer series. Who would you say, and you don't have to like pick one, because even I hate like when we pick one, because everyone's like, oh, you like Hot Rod. Like give me like 5 characters you really like and why. And they don't have to be from the same.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. See, that's why even picking one is tough. That's why. So like, but like it doesn't have to be in any order. Just like off the top of your head.
So Rescue Bots Chase is one. Animated Optimus Prime, but there's a bias there. Basically, Marvel G1 Shockwave, particularly the UK version. Absolutely one of the most well-written characters I have basically read upon in such a long time. And I'm not really much of a comic book person. I have read it here and there, but like when I started to read some of the Marvel stuff, the US stuff, the UK stuff, I was so floored with how good G1 Shockwave is. And that was like shortly, and then watching the animated version of him is as close as they could get to perfect adaptation of that older one,
Yeah.
but it's like, okay, they it's a blend of the
Well,
two.
that's
Well,
always been an issue. That's always been an issue where it's like G1 cartoon is so strong that it heavily influences what homages would be, you know. But yeah, anyways, next one.
exactly. Beast Force Dinobot,
Yeah.
particularly the Transmetal 2 version.
Oh,
I actually
really?
like that design a lot more than the original
Okay.
one. Exactly. I'm one of the very few
Really
people
interesting. Okay.
that liked that new design. Because it's a skeleton more or less, and I like it. I like that skeleton
Do you have both
zombified like version.
versions of that mold? Like, do you have the bone white?
I am looking right
Like,
now to see if I
there's bone
do.
white, and then there's like eggshell, I guess is the other color. There's two versions of it.
I think I have the eggshell
Okay.
version,
That's
but
the
he's
common
like
one, yeah.
really
Yeah.
deep inside somewhere.
Okay, cool. But yeah,
And last one. Hold on.
go ahead.
I'm
Go
not
ahead.
done. I haven't finished watching Beast Wars Neo yet, but I am a big fan of Big Convoy. If you have not seen, I have like 3 versions of him already.
Easily, when he came out, like one of the best Transformer toys ever made at that time when he had come out. It was just like, it has a Matrix. What? You know, like living that was mind blowing. But yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the best toys I ever got from that line. It's one of the best character designs. It's great. It's a perfect marriage, is what I call it.
It's a great mold. I'm looking at the Bloody Tusks version behind me. People who can see in the stream. It's right there. Love it.
Which I have
Love
right
that
now.
one. Oh my God. How much is that one? That one's got to be like $100 now.
I have no idea. I got it for free. I think I got him for about $60 at a TFCon. I cannot remember who sold it to me, but I immediately
That's about
grabbed
right
it.
because if I remember correctly, I want to say his MSRP was probably $39.99 American. So when you really factor in when that came out, which was, I want to say, I'm just a shot in the dark here. I want to say like 2004. You know, with the exchange rate back then, you pretty much probably were like you were just paying a small premium to get it. So that's actually not too bad. That's actually not too bad because him now, like that mold's amazing. I always tell people, get that mold any way you can, and there's plenty of opportunities. There's reissues. There's the original. There's the Korean reissues. There's so many versions. Ultra Mammoth, which is the white version, which is a weird one.
Love that one.
There's a weird matrix, like a blue matrix. That one. There's so many cool versions. But yeah, so what others do you like?
I counted my 5, so I think another one. My runner-up. My runner-up would be. I'm just trying to think who else. My runner-up would be Brawn.
I love Brawn. Yeah, I like when. Yeah.
He's such a great character.
He was one of those guys that like him and Outback. I don't know why. I like that design. It's this small spunky dude. You know, it's just always loved him. Super cool.
I know. I still want to get like this is me wishful thinking. Like I really just want like a really good masterpiece like version of him. I know we might never get one, but
they'll slowly get to it. You know, it's something. I always tell people like when it comes to the mini bots, and I think I had this discussion with David Cabal. I was always like, I feel like we get masterpiece level mini bots through the main lines because like I think one of the bronze that came out, I think it was like Titan Returns or something. I'm turning my head. So
yeah,
like I think it was the Titan's Return one. Like when you put it next to the Masterpiece Bumblebee, you're like, it's pretty comparable. You know what I mean? It's pretty much there. And then when that deluxe Cliff Jumper came out from Earthrise, it pretty much was a master. You know, when you look at the parts that were used and stuff and the pieces, you're just kind of like, oh hey, you know, I think that's kind of how we're gonna get. I think that Bumblebee was made into a masterpiece because it's Bumblebee. And there's more of a PR reason behind it, where it's like, I don't know, like them going like, oh, you know, MP67 Masterpiece Brawn, and it's just gonna be like, I don't know if Japan's gonna eat that up. Like, I would love it. I'd be all over it. But, you know, that's just me.
We're one of the few people who
Yeah.
would love that one. I'm like, no,
And he was,
give it to
and
me
it's
now.
sad because, like, spoilers for people, but he's one of those guys that every continuity he dies. Like, it's just, if you look at every continuity that he was in, he dies at some point. It's just sad. Or the ones where he just disappears, like, into the background. But it's, you know, it's, I think he's an animated, but that really still isn't concluded in my opinion. I still think there's a,
Yeah.
but either way. So now the next question is, so how do you like to consume your fandom? Because, like, different people on a daily basis, like, some people like to do fan fiction, some people like to do creative art stuff, like customizing. Some people are artists, some people, you know, compose stuff, some people are just go on message boards and communicate. How do you like to, you know, like, what's that third party part of your fandom of what you like to do stuff with it? Like, do you like to engage with fans on Twitter, or is it a message board thing, or?
Well, in my early days, I was heavily engaged in it. I was in several message boards. Like, I wrote some fanfic. I wrote some fanfic in my timeline. What else did I do? I was really, really, like, large. I was like following a lot of people at a lot of, like, Transformers artists on DeviantArt way before Twitter was even a concept. And nowadays, I don't engage as much anymore. Like, sometimes, like, I go to Discord, like, I engage with all of the people, like, in the Slag Discord. But other than that, I just went back to my roots and, like, consume, like, either the media or, like, look up on toys or, like, just try to read the comics as much as I can. But of course, like, I am, like, immersed in, like, other fandoms ever since. Like, if you look behind me, I have JoJo, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And that's something, like, I'm actually going heavily on a little bit. Like, I've been following artists on Twitter. I've been reading a lot of factoids. I'm reading more of, like, I would say, reference and influences that Araki wrote, just all of that stuff. But with Transformers, because I've been a fan for, like, over a decade, I'm at a place where, like, I would not be worried if I'm missing out on anything, because there's so many things right now. There's third-party stuff.
Yeah.
There's so many toy lines coming out, new fiction. It's like, I'm not too worried about it. I'm not going to leave it anytime soon, and it's not going to leave me anytime soon. So, like, once I am not busy, I'll just, like, okay, now I could, like, go back and, like, watch this or read this.
Well, and that's the one beautiful thing with Transformers is that just TV series, just that alone could keep you busy for a very long time, unless you're someone that just has all the time in the world and can binge through it all. But, I mean, around the time of Ener-Con, when that was coming out, that was already 500 episodes of half-hour content. Now that we have, you know, after Ener-Con, you have Cybertron and everything else after that, there's a lot of stuff to consume. And then when you're talking the comics, that's a whole other animal. Not even talking IDW, we're just talking just Marvel, just the Marvel books, then the Dreamwave books, and then you jump into stuff like just the Japanese series, the Japanese mangas. It's something that could keep you busy for quite a lifetime in a lot of ways. If you didn't come, like, I was someone that, because I was living it, I just went all through those paces. It's kind of like, I always say, it's like, I don't know if you're familiar with One Piece, the anime, but it's like, I always tell people, if you didn't watch One Piece as it was coming out, don't ever think about going back and watching it, because it's, I think it's at like 2,000 episodes now or something. You know, it's like, you might as well just throw
it's getting there.
Just throw your life away. You know, like, forget it. It's nuts.
I knew some people that decided, like, oh, I'm gonna start, and I'm going, like, no, just start at a certain arc and go from there. You're not gonna miss anything if you start One Piece from the beginning.
That's the pressing thing that I always say. It's like, you know, life's too short. There's only so much that you could enjoy. And that's why, like going back to what we were saying about with binging and stuff, where people are just like, what should I watch? Should I watch this or should I watch that? And like, I mean, I have some friends, I'm just going like, watch Reboot. Like, I've been pushing them for so long. Why haven't you watched Reboot? It's like, oh, should I watch this? No, watch Reboot. Why always tell me to watch Reboot? No, watch Reboot.
You have to.
It's like, oh.
Now,
go ahead.
I don't like going into this part of the discussion, but I am going to call out certain groups of people that have started watching Beast Wars now and are talking about the animation style. You have to remember that back then in 96, and even as early as 94 with Reboot, this was groundbreaking animation. This was CG animation that's done in a regular half-hour format. It has not been done before.
Well, and I challenged, what I even challenge when they say that is they're comparing it to stuff that's like movie CG animation, Frozen and stuff like that, where I always say to them, go on Netflix, go to children's CG animation, and the glut of CG animation that's brand new out there today, like especially a lot of them are coming out of Korea now, and I challenge you to like show me one show that is even half as good looking as Beast Wars was 25 years ago. You know, it's almost like
exactly.
I'm trying to think of one like Hello Robot, or there was another one I saw. It was like these little cat animals that transform into Sentai stuff, and they have giant robots. It was another one. Oh my god, I forget what it's called. Mini Force, I think it was called. Something like that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You know, and all of these are like brand new. They're brand new series. They came out, and it's like, what's your excuse? Why do you not have shadowing and like shading done and perfect lip matching and emoting for the characters? They're all stiff, and it's like, you're 2020. You know, this series was 1996. You know, like
exactly.
It's crazy that, you know, something that was made in 1996. I mean, I feel like I'm a broken telephone when I say this, but I always tell people, go back and watch Guerrilla Warfare Season 1, and the amount of, you could watch that episode on mute, and the amount of just emotion that the character models have for that time, and you go like, wow, like, this was made in 96, and these character models are like emoting and smiling, and like, you know, a character would be talking to each other, and then a character messages them through the comm, and you could see their reaction through their facial expression listening to the comm link. And it's like, and then you watch modern CG today, the Mega Man cartoon that came out, the Pac-Man cartoon that came out. I use those two because those were two that I watched, and I go like, wow, look how stiff those were, and they were just these emotionless character models that just didn't do much. And I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm picking on them, but it's just, you know, like Beast Wars was revolutionary. And then when you get into like some of Mainframe's other stuff, like Shadow Raiders, which was just, wow, it's like Beast Wars on steroids in terms of what the CG was back then. Characters like Graveheart, I mean, his hair was, I mean, I can't even imagine the modern CG companies today that make children's cartoons doing what Beast Wars and Shadow Raiders did, or Reboot Season 3, them doing what they did back then today. I think they would, because from what I would gather, and you could probably correct me on this, like, that was a labor of love. Those were people that probably did long hours, loved what they were doing. I remember reading up on how, like, the encoding of movement was crazy. Like, you know, they'd move Cheetor's arm and they'd have to wait like 3 minutes before the computer could react to what they did to register it. And like, it was just this whole thing. You know, there was a lot of the CG done by other people today. It's like, and again, I don't want to pick on like someone mentioned in the chat, Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong was done by a French and a Japanese company.
Yes, right.
And those, and I'll say it right now, anime, Japan, they got 2D down. They got it down packed. But when it comes to CG, they're still behind. They're still kind of behind. That's still, there's still like what was the latest one? The Ultraman CG one that just came out, the Ultraman Netflix series. And then they did the Saint Seiya one, and you watch those and you go, they still don't got it yet. And this is like, you know, 2019, 2020, and they still don't have it yet. We're like, man, we nailed it. And when I say we, it's like Canada, woo, like, but like they nailed it back then, and it was just
Exactly.
it was so good. And when people go back and watch it and they go, oh, CG doesn't look that good compared to what like Universal Studios movie number 17 that had like a $17 billion budget, or Frozen, and even then, like, watch the episodes with Tigatron and then go back and watch like Frozen. Okay, so like, maybe the human characters look more lifelike and stuff, but I don't like Beast Wars knew how to frame their episodes where if there was a weakness, they knew how to cinematography work to hide that. Like if anyone who watched Reboot, the first season, the characters just couldn't walk. They just couldn't. They just they just didn't have it down. But they knew how to frame and do the cinematography that you didn't notice that unless there was a wide shot and then they were walking. But and Beast Wars was so good with the cinematography, so good with the character development that, man, like, it's just nuts. It's just absolutely nuts. And I mean, like, well, let me ask you this: outside of Code of Hero, because everyone says Code of Hero, what was your favorite Beast Wars episode?
Maximal No More.
Oh, really?
That's actually, I liked it way more than Code of Hero, to be honest.
Really interesting. Okay.
Yes.
Because a lot of people,
there was a lot.
They fall on that.
Because to me, this was because Code of Hero was more of like the climax. Maximal No More was the rising impact. And to me, that I felt more of like the character development and the story and the emotional consequences of, like, Dinobot betraying everyone again. Yeah, no, I loved that way, way more. And Code of Hero, like, I love it for what it is and how emotionally strong that episode is. I don't know. I guess it was because I think one of the things why I kind of give a lot of other Transformer shows a lot of grief is because that there has not been a lot of shows after Beast Wars, and I know this is my bias showing, I admit that there was dialogue between two or more of the characters or one-on-one scenes.
Yeah.
It was watching theater. It was watching theater.
It's a deeper level of character development. I agree. Like
Yes.
the argument that I give with I remember I was sitting at Tfcon's bar and I was with, I forget who it was, but he was so adamant that G1 the cartoon was better than Beast Wars. And
I heard of this story.
And I remember just like going, all right, we're going to do this civilly. Why? That's all I asked. Why? Well, the designs are better. Okay. I'm a car guy. I love cars too. Favorite character's Hot Rod, But why is the show better? And it's like, well, the characters are better. Okay. Tell me about Cliff Jumper. Exactly. What's Cliff Jumper's relationship to anybody? He doesn't trust people, and usually what people, when they answer that question, they pull from like something they heard from IDW or something that a tech spec told them. It's never something from the show. And it's like, what I love with Beast Wars is I could go, tell me what Rat Trap's relationship is with Dinobot. Tell me what Rat Trap's relationship is with Cheetor. Tell me what Rat Trap's relationship is with Optimus Primal, with Rhinox, with, you could segment it to everybody. Everyone has some kind of relationship that So you're if you were going to write it, you even know how it would be because it's so well written. It's like them, and that's good writing. Where you could argue, how Hot Rod's relationship is with Cup. You watched it in that 86 movie. You kind of know what Hot Rod's relationship is with RC, but what's Hot Rod's relationship with Springer? What's Hot Rod's relationship with Ultra Magnus, even though that's his second in command? That was the weakness of G1, is that a lot of times, like, think about it, like, what is Optimus Prime's relationship with Jazz? And that's supposed to be like his right-hand man. And I'm not saying comics, I'm not saying tech specs, I'm not saying IDW, I'm saying the G1 cartoon. What is Optimus's relationship with Jazz? They had probably a couple lines between each other, and you could fanfic the hell out of that and try to interpret but you never got those moments of character development. And they do exist. There is the Inferno to Red Alert episodes. There is those episodes do exist, but they're so just two characters put together in a room, and then that happens.
Exactly.
But what is Inferno's relationship to anyone else? It's just like, and again, I could understand it's because Beast Wars had a limited budget, and because it had a limited cast, they had to focus on what they had with them. But today, we could choose to do that or not, and we could choose to tell a good story or try to sell toys. And I mean, last I checked, toys sell one way or another. We were lucky in the 90s. I had this discussion with Aaron Archer, where Batman showed us. Batman came around and showed us you could have a very good story, and that story doesn't have to feature any of those toys, and you'll still sell 1 million aqua marine colored deep sea dive Batmobile, whatever. Like, you look at the Batman animated series toy line, and they probably released, I'm going to take a shot in the dark here and say 100 toys. I'm probably underselling it, maybe 200. And maybe like 7 of those toys were actually like featured in the show. The vanilla versions.
Exactly.
Like it's, like deep crime Nightwing with like purple and green, like, and change color. Like, they sold millions of them. Wasn't in the show. So I think that Batman showed us that we could tell a story and not have to try to sell a product. And that was the beauty of the 90s. And I was hoping that we would keep evolving into that, but it seems like as time progressed, they kind of forgot that. I blame anime, and not really anime in general, but like Pokemon. And I love Pokemon, but I think Pokemon came around and made a lot of companies go, oh, well, we got to get them to catch them all. And maybe like complex storytelling isn't that important. We just got to sell product and feature that product and have that product appear. And then a kid will want to go out and buy a Krabby PVC figure by Tomy or something, or, a Licky Tongue. And I don't know. It's just, it faded away. And then G1 became nostalgic. And then you had and again, like I grew up on G1, but I'm also someone that's able to look at shows and recognize what is well written, what isn't. G1 is Neil Armstrong syndrome. It was the first, thus everyone remembers it. Not a lot of people remember who was the second one to come out of that shuttle, or that module. But everyone remembered Neil Armstrong. Maybe everyone remembers Buzz Aldrin now because now he's showing up everywhere. But the point is that that's what I felt it was with Transformers. It's kind of like, I look at it as it's the modern version of Star Trek fans when they argue old generation versus next generation, where it's like, who's better, Kirk or Picard? And it's just I don't know. For me, it's all, and I again grew up on G1, love cars, love those designs. Those designs are iconic. But to say that Beast Wars is not the better series, you really got to. Again, it's just, I go back to why. Why is it better?
Yes.
Why? And I never get a clear answer ever. And it gets so heated. I remember at TM, I was like, you're not telling me why. Everything they always tell me is grounded in nostalgia or something about the toys. Oh, the toys had metal. Here's a fun fact. They only had metal for like 2 years, and most of them did. Like Bumblebee had like almost no metal. Like Cliffjumper had almost no metal. Brawn had like if you don't count screws and pins, there's no metal. Like, so like you're talking like a small part, like Shockwave, maybe his legs. That's it. So and then when we finally did bring back metal with like titaniums and alternators, which was Vinyl Tech in Japan that had metal, people realized maybe metal's not a good idea. Like it's actually limiting in terms of toy development. So I don't know. Sorry to go on that rant, but it's just like,
no, it's fine. It's fine. Like you and I and like maybe a couple of other people like will rant on this like forever.
Well, it's just that I was an 80s kid, but I was I consumed so much cartoons in the 90s, and the 90s just had so much good cartoons that I was able to kind of take a step back and go, oh, like, you know, G.I. Joe and Gem and Transformers and My Little Pony and them were not as complexly written as Gargoyles,
Yeah.
Batman, even something like Darkwing Duck was more cerebral, than some other Disney
Mhm.
stuff from the past. So it's, I don't know, it's always been like that. But yeah,
What for me,
breaking up there. One sec. Connection, no. Let's get you back. Hold on.
a little
There
bit
we
of
go.
a
Now
delay
it's fine.
here.
Now it's fine. We good now? We good? Hold on. It's got to catch up. Oh no, why is our
Okay, now
cat?
it's fine.
Okay, it's
Yeah, I
good?
was
Okay.
about to say something, and then suddenly there was a
Okay,
huge delay.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fine. Can you hear me? Perfect. Sorry, everyone. This is what
Yeah.
was going to end up happening. Um,
But yeah, as I was saying, like it's so what else like what other series of Transformers really resonated with you though? Like that were like really like wow, this is a really good series.
I I will still go back to the
Mm.
Marvel stuff, like the early stuff. I remember one of my earliest reads of the Marvel US run was the
Mm.
Time Wars arc, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And because again, like because that was where all of like blend it was where time travel was happening, it was where Shockwave was growing mad. There was so much drama in such a short arc, and I'm like, I'm floored by this. It's still one of the few like Transformers fiction I would go back to. And I really hope that like the newer fans like could go find it and give it a
Well,
good
it's
read. I
it's
know it's
it's
quite hard to
online.
get
There's a
like
lot of
online,
dubious
but
sources. If you yeah, online it's
oh, it
pretty
is.
easy. It's pretty easy to find it online.
Okay.
I am not promoting and or suggesting it, but I'm just saying if your local comic book store does not have trade paperbacks or back issues or stuff like that, it's there. It's there quite easily. Yeah,
It's there.
it's a Google search away.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one is I also like the Dreamwave
Mm.
stuff. I bought the omnibus of War Within, and it's one of my favorite stories that
War
they've ever created. The Fallen
War
was just like
Within
so
in
good.
my like fanon, like in my fan continuity, it's the prequel to G1. Like it's just I
Hmm.
feel that
Yeah.
if we could somehow like take like David Wise's Orion Pax kind of prequel story and just kind of, oh, that maybe that didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like if we kind of just got rid of that, I am totally fine with War Within. And War Within, if you look at like if you look at it standalone, I mean, it almost kind of is this contained G1 prequel because it has like that. There's a scene in the book where Megatron and Optimus see this vision of the future and they're fighting on the Hoover Dam, and so it's kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, like there's it's almost like, yeah, it could be like a G1 prequel. And of course it introduced, like you said, the Fallen, which it was the first time outside of technically Alpha Trion, who was retroactively made one of the original 13, but it was the first time we got one of the 13 uh, right in our face. Like, hey, here's this guy that,
Hmm.
was the Fallen, was the fallen angel of Primus and stuff. And Simon Furman just knocking it out of the park, man. Don
It was
Figueroa
so
writing a storm and drawing incredible designs that unfortunately, because they were only available through the Titaniums line, didn't have the best toys, unfortunately. But a third party is going to
hmm
try to kind of take care of that. But the,
either third party or I'm hoping like maybe one day
it would be
they'll create one, an
yeah,
actual
like because
Fallen
like
figure.
I mean we have like that Titaniums one is it is what it is. They're floppy as hell. Those things. It's quite the line. But
Hmm.
anyways, the point.
I have the yeah. I have the Optimus
Oh my
Prime
god!
line. I
Like
know
it's
that
like
very well.
the War Within Optimus Prime. I remember that was like that was the first figure released for that 6-inch line, and I remember opening up. I was so excited, and then when I opened it, I was like, "What is this? Oh right, that's why we don't use metal anymore, because it's terrible. It's like taking two cinder blocks and attaching them in between each other with Kleenex. You know, it's just like not a good idea." But yeah, like I agree with you though with those Marvel books. Those Marvel books, like Jaws D knows, like when I was reading the later Marvel books, like issue let's say 65 to 80, when stuff really started heating up with the Matrix Quest and the discovery, like the origin of Cybertron, that was like me, like reading that for the first time, and I read it for the first time much later. And when I mean much later, like it came out in like 87, 88, 89. I didn't read it until like 96, 97, 98. And reading it for the first time was like being a born again Christian. I don't even know how to describe it, because I read that stuff and then it just blew my mind. It was just like, whoa, this is Cybertron's origin in this continuity. Like there's like a god that created them. Like, and then to me it was just like G1 cartoon origin with Primacron and all that. Get the F out of here. You know, like who
Exactly.
quintessence F this stuff. Like forget this. That's the false origin in my opinion, you know? And it blew my mind. And it was just, and then like I remember Jaws D was over one day and I was just like this is what the origin story was. And he's like, I think you're crazy. You know, it's just like, he was just like, I think you're losing your mind. I'm like, no, man, this is the way to go. And he never read it, but he read the G2 books because that's what he grew up on. And, but so he knew of Simon Furman's work and how good it was. And like, man, like those books are so good. They are so good. Like people don't realize, and not to mention, like you said, the UK stuff too. The good thing about the UK stuff was it was kind of made as filler. And because it was made as filler, there's a lot of character development that goes on as a result, because they go, well, we got to buy time in between these two stories of the USA stories. Because how, for people that aren't familiar, the Marvel books are a monthly release. That's how it was, like any other comic book. They came out every month. But in the UK, it's weekly. So they had to create some kind of filler in between. So they would do, and this is Simon Furman who stepped in, they would do the weekly black and white strips and stuff like that in between. And they'd go, okay, here's the story between issues 5 and 6. What do we write in between that? That could be a filler story. And it's like, oh, well, this character went off panel, so why don't we just explain what he was doing or something? And there's a lot of good stories that came out of that. A lot of it. Like you mentioned, Time Wars was a really good chunk of that, where it was just like Ultra Magnus, Galvatron, all that kind of stuff, which, again, Ultra Magnus and Galvatron in that Marvel book, if you read it just straight, 1 to 80, those two characters don't really have much of an impact. But because of the UK stuff, which is, it's out there, is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Exactly.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. Oh my god, I love it. I have like all of those trades, and then I went out of my way, because if you've, do you own any of the original issues? Like, have you ever owned like?
Probably not. I own like most of like the reissued stuff, and I really wanted to get like the bigger books, but like those are cost a leg to get.
The original issues, they were done like in a wider magazine format, like they're slightly larger.
Yeah.
And like, which sucks, because when you put them in a long box, they're like impossible to keep safe. It's very difficult. Exactly. But I remember tracking those down, and then when Simon Furman came to one of our shows, I got him to sign a whole bunch of them because they're so good. They're so good. Cup Story, which is technically Hot Rod's first appearance in a comic book. Like that's his first appearance, his key issue, if you will, if you were a comic book collector. Cup Story, I think it's issue number 197. I think it is. So good stuff. Like it's such a shame, and that's what I keep telling with Transformer fans is like there's so much to go back and consume. Like I used to always say, if no Transformer toys ever came out tomorrow ever again, and no new series ever came out, people who are not me, but people who would be able to just go back through the archive, and there's just so much to enjoy.
Exactly.
Like you said, you just kind of started Beast Wars second, then after that would be Beast Wars Neo. which is the sequel series. So you got right away there, you got 104 episodes to consume right there. And if at any point that you actually enjoy any of that, then you're going to be like, oh, maybe I want a long rack figure. Maybe I want Break. Maybe I want,
I was collecting the toys before I watched the series. I just
but that's just it. So it became this thing where all of a sudden, like, you could go back to this stuff and rediscover it, because that's what happened with me. Here's me that, because I didn't get to enjoy those comics initially of the G1 books by Marvel, going back and reading them and then going, I want a Nightbeat figure now. I really want a Nightbeat figure. And going out to, like, at the time, this is way before eBay, I had these, like, used toy stores that were, like, part of a comic book store. Shout out to Unknown Collectibles back in the day, owned by Robbie. This guy he was the dude who just, you told him what you wanted and he found it somehow through networking. And he was like, you'd show up to a store and, oh man, like, he just got all these Pretender shells and Target Master Juniors and stuff. So, or it's going to be double Target Masters. But it's just, there's so much to consume that you could just enjoy what's going on behind, that you don't even have to move forward. And I mean, I don't even want to talk about like from a toy standpoint. I mean, just the Michael Bay toys, from personal experience collecting them, there's got to be at least 1,000. No joke. There's got to be.
There's so many.
If you took every Michael Bay movie toy that ever came out, every scale, every price point, the legend scale, the robot replicas, the robot heroes, there's got to be over 1,000 at this point. And just that alone could keep you busy. Just collecting that.
You have a whole wall that's just movie toys, and then the other wall is just the rest.
Every time I turn my head and look at it, it's depressing, because it's like I look at it and I go, look how much space these movie toys take. And then I look at, like, my masterpiece display and it's like a quarter of that. And it's crazy because those two, like, the masterpiece, well, granted, yes, the distribution is way less, but masterpiece came out in 2001, and this is, it came out in 2004. And then, like, the Bayverse stuff started in 2007, and it's like, man, like why is there so much of this shit? But it's a reality. It's just and I fell hard.
Exactly.
I fell hard because, for me, it was just like, oh man, there's gonna be a Transformer movie. Like, this is gonna be make or break. So, but, and then of course, like, look, if you Creo, like, there's over like 200 Creons. There's over how many bot shots are there? I think there's like 50 bot shots you could collect. Like, there's so many sublines and stuff like that you could just go on forever, and a new toy doesn't even have to be ever released again, and there's new things to discover and enjoy. I'm the same way with video games. Like, it's just, I could go back in the Nintendo library and there's got to be at least 100 games I haven't played ever, and that saves me having to go out and buy a $100 PlayStation 5 game or something. So
exactly.
Speaking of which, have you ever played any Transformer video games at all? Anything of that origin? War for Cybertron?
I have not. I missed out on that whole thing. Like, I was going to get Devastation at one point, and by the time I was going to grab it, it was already gone. And I never encountered it ever again. So I never actually played any of the video games. I wanted to get War for Cybertron, and I never had the opportunity.
Could have played Escalation with us. That would have been fun. They had the RC character model too, so you could have made a female character or something also. Like, I know that I did a video game panel, I think it was 2010, and I remember I showed the Beast Wars PlayStation game with the terrible voice acting. And if you actually, people could look this up, it's on Vangelis's channel. If you go to, I should turn off my phone, shame on me. If you go to that video, find the point where I'm showing that footage of the Beast Wars video game, and Vangelis is going to pan his camera onto Christina here, who's seeing it for the very first time and dying in her chair. because the voice acting is absolutely terrible. I don't know why. This was done by Hasbro Interactive. They probably had some kind of line with Ocean Group, which at the time was what those guys were. That Ocean Group bunch of voice actors. It's like they could have. David K probably would have worked, relatively well as opposed to that terrible guy that they hired, and everyone sounded terrible. Just get Scotty, Gary, and David K. Maybe you don't need to bring in, Richard Newman or something, but just get those three, and that would have covered like 90% of like that game. And it was so bad. It was so bad. And again, go back and find that video. It's on Vangelis. I think the title of it is, I think it's TF Video Game Panel. That's how he titled it. And it's just me. It's me covering every game from the beginning, 1984, up until just before War for Cybertron, because it was 2010. Now I remember it was 2010. And it's just like, again, you'll see Christina makes a cameo in it right at that Beast Wars game, because it was bloody awful, that game. Oh, man. But anyways, yeah, so, well, you were lucky in a sense because you didn't play some of those crappy games. You probably would have liked War for Cybertron, though, because that was, and I still say to this day, easily the best that and Fall of Cybertron, the sequel, easily the best Transformer games ever made. And now the servers don't work anymore. And, like you would think like, oh, great, now you could get a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox 360 for like probably nothing now. You could probably buy a PlayStation 3 for like $20 now, and those games, those are probably kicking around for like $5 or like $10, and the servers don't work. So now we can't even, like, there can't even be a secondary community, and that's the one thing I hate about modern gaming, is that, like, people are still playing.
What would I still?
Go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Would I still get my Shockwave DLC?
Oh God, yeah, that was the pre-order. Yeah, that was the what was hilarious with that? So the game came out the same day as a BotCon, and I remember I pre-ordered it way before, going like, oh wait a minute, it's the same day that I'm flying out to BotCon. Actually, I fly out a few days before, and going like, I'm not going to be able to go into not Best Buy, EB Games at the time, which is GameStop for us, to pick up my DLC, and they give me this like scratch card and stuff, and you get a Shockwave, and you get all his parts. So when you make your custom character, you have Shockwave parts because you unlock it. And that's the thing that sucks, is like, all of that stuff is gone now. Like you can't download the expansion packs where you could get RC and then all the RC parts and make female characters and have the female voice. It's, oh man, that's we had Aaron Archer on the panel and we talked about it, and Aaron's like, we probably won't see something like that again, because that game was made because they were building a new continuity, where most of the time when you have licensed games, they're just that, they're licensed games. So they're kind of just a small piece on the side. They don't have to be that important. Where this was, we're building something. And so we need to make it big and grandiose, and High Moon Studios was killing it, doing an incredible job. The next thing I wanted to ask was, so outside of Transformer conventions, and we kind of answered a little bit, but what other conventions do you normally go to?
I go to Anime North, but it's really because I am staff there. I am one of the main members of guest liaisons, so it's literally like my work week, my biggest week of the whole thing. Aside from my regular job, I do stage management for a living. I go to Fan Expo whenever I have the time to do that. I used to go for all 3 or 4 days of it, but because of my erratic work schedule, because I work in live theater, I just do whatever I can to either visit for the Saturday or the Sunday. And a bunch of I used to go to all of the other smaller shows that Fan Expo were affiliated with, like the March Toronto Anime Con or the December Toronto Anime Con. So MTAC and DTAC. Unfortunately,
they used to do a horror one too, if I remember correctly. I think they used to do
They did do the horror convention, but
but I'm just trying to remember, because I remember I would get invites for those, but I never would go. Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because they stopped putting voice actors in in the smaller shows, I decided to not go altogether because that's really the only reason why I would go to any of these conventions, with the exception of Anime North. But yeah, I wonder if I've been to other conventions outside of Toronto. I don't think I ever did. I was going to go to a convention in Winnipeg, not Ener-Con, because this was one of the years where it wasn't hosted, where it wasn't being done. Um, it was one of the anime conventions, but unfortunately, it wasn't syncing with my schedule because I was doing a show in Winnipeg, and this is actually quite interesting because this is Transformers related. The play that I was stage managing was called, let me see, was called Mercury Man, and it was actually semi-biographical of a semi-biographical story of Orson Welles on the last days
really?
of his life. And his last days of his life included him doing a recording for Transformers the movie, and that was like the main focal point, him being in that booth. So we did actually do some scenes where we had our main actors playing as Frank Welker, was Frank Welker, who else was it? Chris Latta, and I cannot remember, and Peter Cullen.
Was anyone playing Wally Burr and line reading him?
Yes,
there we go.
Our director was basically doing a voice in the background, a voice behind the stage as Wally Burr. It was amazing. It was great. I actually had to like work the script a little bit because I was so immersed in that knowledge, especially when it came to voice actors. I was like, look, I could actually like correct the scene and like here and there.
Amazing.
And yeah, we did that, and the show did really well. It had good reviews. One of our Tfcon regulars, Goober, got to go see it.
Oh, it's true. He's
he actually went all the way to Winnipeg to go see my show, and it was quite amazing.
Shout out to Goober. I think he had a panel before too for Ener-Con. He did a panel with Ninjatron, if I remember correctly. Ninjatron, who's in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you guys just did a panel or something. But yeah, I'm trying to think of like what else we could discuss. Is there anything that you would like to talk about in terms of Transformers? Otherwise, we'll open it up to super chat questions with people afterwards.
Oh, good. We have super chat questions.
Yeah, we have some.
Other than that, it's really just, guys, I know that a lot of you are getting new into this, and you're I wonder what era I would label them on. I think they're now in the Cyberverse era. Oh my God, we're here. We're here. Or those that have grown up with the movies.
Yeah.
Go all the way back, guys. Go all the way back to like to the Marvel stuff, to the short series, or like the entire expansion of the US and UK run.
Just to cut you off for a sec, Goober's in the chat with Ninjatron, and they're saying,
oh my God.
Yeah. I didn't.
What is Goober saying?
Yeah, he's just saying we're doing our panel tomorrow. That's all. But they're in the chat, so you can say hi to them. So.
Hi guys, I miss you.
But yeah, sorry, you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, like, go all the previous stuff. You got to like read some stuff, like see some of the Japanese stuff. Like
that's the stuff that I push because a lot of people. They're like, oh, I didn't like Armada because of, the writing, or I didn't like Cybertron. Yeah, you watched it dubbed. And, I mean, I don't want to be like one of those guys, but it's one of these things where, I don't know, like, it's because I'm an anime person. It's just like, you got to watch the subtitle version. It's
not just that, but because of the production, because of what was going on with the production of both the sub and the dub, and the sub has the more finished product. And of course, like, the dub was unfortunately handed the unfinished scripts that not even the talented voice actors, most of them were from Beastwares, and a lot of them were from the anime community of Vancouver. They weren't able to properly perform in them because of an unfinished script, and because of like you know, other outside elements that were against them. So I would recommend watching Micron Legend,
And
Galaxy
Superlink.
Force, and
Yep.
Superlink. Thank you. And just watch them
Yeah.
subbed. You
Well,
guys got to read this
it's
stuff.
it's the
You
same way
have to
that
read
like,
it.
and it's not me trying to like be biased to Japanese stuff, because I wouldn't suggest watching Beast Wars in the Japanese dub. That's a whole other kettle of fish there. That's
No,
terrible. That's
no.
terrible. It's you watch it as like like you watch a movie when you're high or something. You know what I mean? It's one of those kind of things where it's like you watch it as ironically as a joke. You don't watch it because you're actually trying to enjoy Beast Wars. But I'm trying to think of an example, because usually, like, I always tell people, whatever was the country of origin of that series, watch it in that language. That's always how it is. So if the series was, you know, if the series was made in America, or like, you know, because it kind of gets dicey with G1 because it was animated in Korea but also kind of made in America, so it's like you're not watching it in Korean, but it's something where you just kind of you have to watch it in its original content, because otherwise stuff is lost. And in the case, like you mentioned, Armada, Micron Legend, a lot of stuff was lost. A lot of stuff was lost in that version. It's a
Exactly.
mess. It's an absolute mess. And again, then you'd be missing out on like Master Force, Victory, Zone. Like Headmasters is okay too, but the Master Force and Victory are just top tier, and they're gonna make you love characters that are $2,000 toys. So, so it's gonna wreck
Oh
you.
yeah.
That's why you're gonna be like, man, I really like Star Saber. I think I'm gonna go out and buy. Oh boy, yeah. When's that reissue coming? You know, like, well, maybe I'll buy the masterpiece. Oh boy, okay. You know, so it's gonna make you spend money, but it's one of those really good series. Before we'll go into questions. I just want to say, guys, we're gonna do tomorrow. We're gonna do a giveaway with Jaws D with Symbiote Studios. So once again, just got to do my plug and promoting Symbiote Studios that provide all the shirts for the show. More in the Soundwave, the pins, symbiotestudios.com. They're Hasbro licensed product. They also do all kinds of other plush of other video games and everything. symbiotestudios.com. Check them out. They're building a huge library of Transformer product officially through Hasbro, and then you have what do you call it? And then you have like their promotion code. So if you make your first order, Protoman is on your checkout. You get $5 off your first order. Just wanted to get that out there. So, but tomorrow we'll be doing a giveaway with Symbiote Studios with Jaws D. We'll do that one tomorrow. Today is just hanging out with Christina and just talking about everything in the fandom and just
Pretty much.
trying to make. We had some questions. People, if you want, just start throwing the questions out now too, because everything kind of gets lost in the ether of conversation here. But it's just like, see, it says here, like Rodimus Primal said, Toei was Japan, ACOM was in Korea. Yeah, but the thing is that Sunbow Entertainment outsourced a lot of their animation to Korea, a lot of it. And G1, let's ignore season 3, because season 3, most of it was ACOM Studios through Nelson Shin. But season 1 and season 2 was a hodgepodge. Like one episode was done by one studio, one episode was done by another. Like all we could confirm is like, you know, More Meets the Eye parts 1, 2, and 3, that was Toei. We know that. But then other episodes like, you know, Prime Problem or Starscream in King Arthur's Court, some of those could have been done in Korea because there's an animation dip there. Who knows? We don't know. It's been so long ago, and a lot of those people aren't with us anymore. So let's jump into some of the questions. Hey, Protoman, what do you think of Cyberverse Scout classes? I like them if it's for characters that make sense for it. I mean, the Cyberverse toys in general are kind of hit or miss. Like, obviously, like something like Dead End, he only has a Scout class toy. So you have to get that one. It's a weird line. Because we don't have a price point. Oh, people are asking who my guest is, by the way. A lot of them.
Oh my
They,
gosh, are you guys
yeah,
late?
a lot. You know, well, because we've already been going for about an hour and a half, so I guess they missed the introduction. So her name is Christina. She was a large part of the Transformer fandom, especially the female side of it, for years, and just figured we'd introduce you to her, to her, to everybody. Um, where are we at? I had another question here. What would you want in a Turtles Forever into Spider-Verse style Transformers movie? So pretty much what they're asking is what would want, and we'll have you answer this. What would you want out of like a, I guess like a reunion of the universes kind of Transformer series? Because you've seen Turtles Forever, right? Yeah.
Absolutely
Yeah.
love Turtles
Okay.
Forever. I don't know what people are talking
Okay.
about.
Yeah.
I've had people. There are people that argue with
Oh,
me on
really?
this.
There's people that don't
It's
like
weird.
it. I loved it. I thought it was great.
I think it's
The voice
because of. I think it was because of because they couldn't get the SAG-AFTRA guys. That's why. But again, I know why.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's
I
a whole
won't get
other.
into it.
Yeah.
So that would be quite interesting for a Turtles Forever type of thing. I know that Spider-Verse, like they only had a small handful, and then they're getting everybody else in for the sequel. I guess I kind of want it in that format where it's just like four Primes, four Megatrons, and basically also four Starscreams. Like basically, like we're the ones in control of like this whole interwoven universal like plot. So I actually would like something like
Well,
that.
it would be interesting, especially considering like with Optimuses and Megatrons, you kind of have the same deal, but Armada Micron Starscream is a different cat, you know. So that would make that interesting because you have your typical Starscreams that are
Exactly.
very Starscreamy. I guess there's no better way to put it. And then you have like Armada Starscream or Micron Legend Starscream that's very Beast Wars Dinobot in a lot of ways, and has a very interesting wrinkle to his or so. And because I mean, no offense to Optimus, but it's like obviously David Kay's depiction of Optimus Prime is very Optimus Primal, so that's the good one of the bunch really, because it's the first day on the job kind of leader. But like, when you bring in Transformers Prime, Optimus Prime, and you put them with G1 Prime, it's like two twins. They're just going to be like saying, but you both sound quite alike. I don't know why. Be very weird.
Exactly. You have such a way to put those groups of four into a scenario and it will work. And I know that Kingdom is sort of like that. It's sort of like a variation of Turtles Forever. So hopefully we'll see if there's going to be more of that in their story, but we don't know.
You
but
haven't watched Cyberverse
like
yet,
that.
but they kind of gave us that for the first time in that. And I remember even I tweeted about it. I was like, there was a scene where you have Bumblebee, Cheetor, and Hot Rod all in the same room together, interacting and having conversations. And that's like three different micro generations of the kid character, if you will, like the focused on character. Like the character was supposed to be the popular one with kids. And we kind of got that for the first time. Like all we were missing was Hot Shot from that shot. And it would have been
Yeah. I want more Hot Shot in my Transformers, please.
You know what? And he's going to be coming because his trademark's coming up. So they got to do something with that. They got to do something with it. I actually was having this conversation not too long ago because what was it that they recently... Oh, I was talking with someone because the recent Dino toy was shown off. And people were like, oh, I didn't know we were going to get a Dino toy. And I'm like, the writing was on the wall because we got a tiny turbo changer of Dino 3 years ago. And it was and that was the first time they ever trademarked Dino. Up to this point, they called him Mirage. That's the toy trademark. And they actually trademarked Dino. And I was like, oh, there's your sign. The second they use one of those small toy lines, they register a Creo name, oh, this Creo's Bludgeon, and we haven't had Bludgeon before, let's say, you right away know the writing's on the wall. Like they're not gonna trademark a name just for that Creo or for that bot shot or for that tiny Titan. They're gonna use it for a bigger toy later. So it's the same thing. Like Hot Shot is due for something. Another one. I remember having this conversation like literally a couple days ago. Who was it? It was another Arachnid. That was another one. Yeah, that one got re-trademarked recently, and it's like, oh, what are they doing here? What are they doing here? Are they going to do a Beast Wars Kingdom Arachnid playset, or are they going to go the other route and go with the Spider Lady? You know, so very interesting to see what they might do with that. And that's always like I tell people that's the cheat sheet to find out what's going to be happening with Transformers. Is to always look at those trademarks. I talked about recently how Web Divers was recently re-trademarked by Japan. Yeah,
yes,
that's very interesting
because
it's 20th anniversary next year for that line, and that's a very unique line. If people never got a chance to kind of watch it, the episodes are out. It was subtitled and translated. The TV series, very unique line, and something that almost became Transformers. Like Aaron Archer was like, we were looking at those toys and we were going like, this could be something, but what really stopped it in the end was the video game gimmick inside the main toy. It would have been way too much work because it was a video game that was built in and it had voice acting. So they were like, ooh, we got to rebuild the whole game, translate it, and get voice actors. I don't know. Maybe we'll just skip this line and then work on Project Armada. But what else? So let's see. What other questions do we have here? Let's just jump in. If we miss any questions, just say them again. We're not trying to ignore them on purpose. It's just so many people ask so many stuff. If you owned a fast food restaurant, could hire a character from the Transformers franchise with only Beast-like alt modes. So they're pretty much saying like, you know, Beast Wars characters or primitives from G1. Choose your top 5 and why. Oof. As someone who worked in fast food for many years, anyone who's familiar with the podcast knows of my Burger King adventures. You need people who are competent, not people who are fun. Let me tell you. My favorite people that I worked with were probably the most boring people in the world, but it's because they were good workers.
Exactly.
Oh, man. Go with yours. I'm going to try to think because mine I actually have to like...
So the question is that if I had to
and they have to be Beast related.
They have to be Beast related. Do I have to pick characters or do I get to pick my own?
No. Yeah, it would be like, oh, you need Rat Trap doing, you know, the fry cooker or something. I think that's what he's probably thinking.
Oh God, Rhinox for the managerial role, 100%.
200%.
So you need someone like that. Yeah. Tigertron would be the older, supervisor, and he would be fun to be around. Of course, you have to have. Let me guess. You have to have someone like Fedor. I'm sorry, because you do need that young person to work the register, even though they're gonna cause a little bit of trouble.
Oh, my answers are so different, but you'll see. Well, except for the Rhinox one, that one I agree with. But this is all, and me, it's like having gone through that battle, so I know exactly my answers. But continue. Sorry.
I'm just thinking, who else? One of the characters, is it Skilla? I cannot remember.
Which one?
From Beast Wars 2nd.
Well, the Japanese names, are you talking about like Scuba? Are you talking about...
Yes, Scuba.
Yeah.
Scuba for clear multitasking. And last one. I need a Predacon in there for something. I would like to have Scorponok.
I was thinking
right there because he's very because he's quite a loyal character, but he's not psychotic like Inferno. He'll actually get the job done.
Inferno would burn the burgers, so he would.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. No, trust me. I've given this deep thought. Because especially me, so number one, so Rhinox managerial role 200%. You need someone who could guide people, who could handle the money, who counts the money at the end of the day. Primal is too lenient, and from what I've learned, when you have a manager that's lenient, that's the guy that you want to work with, because then you could just F off the whole day and not do anything, and steal food and no one will know. Stealing's wrong, kids.
Oh
but,
my god.
But now Cheetor, here's where I would. Cheetor's fast. In fast food, you want to have him in the kitchen. That's the guy that when drive-through comes, and with Burger King, people don't know this, but Burger King has a thing that they do behind the scenes where you have to get your food under 1 minute and 30 seconds. I know that sounds crazy, but they actually do that, and if they don't, the restaurant gets punished for it. You don't know it as a customer. You're going to come, you're going to get your food in 3 minutes, you drive away, whatever. But they actually get punished for it. And so there was an obsession with Burger King at one point about making food. Like, they come in, boom, yeah, I'd like a Whopper Trio, please. Okay, that's $5.75. Come to the first window. Boom, 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 let's go. Get the Whopper done. Like, so you needed a guy like Cheetor. Cheetor will put the burger together quickly. It'll be in the bag, boom, right out the door. So you need someone like Cheetor. I was going to go with you with Scorponok, too, because also Scorponok's a bit of a narc. He's a bit of a tattletale.
Exactly.
And you need that guy, because he's the guy that if someone's stealing something, like if he's stealing food, stealing money, you need that guy that's going to narc someone out, because the amount of food theft and toy theft and money theft at Burger King was ridiculous. I could say this years later now and not have to name anybody, because no one who works there anymore from a managerial role or anything today is there anymore, so they don't care, but it was nuts. It was absolutely bananas how much theft was. So you need someone like Scorponok, because he'll just be like, yeah,
exactly.
Cheetor was stealing nuggets. He was eating nuggets in between his shift or something. The next one, for sure, you need someone who works the front, and this is just a fact. They always hire women for the front. It's just they've done studies, and they're always like, drive-through is different. Drive-through is always a guy for some reason, but for the front, they always hire girls. So Air Razor, she'll be pleasing on the eyes. Black Arachnia, she'll be pleasing on the eyes. So those two. So you got Cheetor in the kitchen, Rhinox handling more or less handling the affairs, the two girls at the front for the cashier, and then we'll have Scorponok handling drive-through and also the kitchen in case someone tries to steal something. So there's my 5. And again, that's like me really thinking about it, because I was in the trenches of that craziness. I actually in a lot of ways, sometimes I miss it. Sometimes I don't miss it, but sometimes I miss it just because it was, you'd always have funny stories from that. Let's look at another crazy question. Let me see, what do we got here? Let's see. I have to scroll up past everything. For you both, was there a notable toy that you guys were hyped for, and then when was super underwhelmed when you got it in hand? Oh, I know one for sure, but go ahead.
I have to look.
Something that was like you were super excited to get, and then when you got it, you're like, oh man, what a piece of trash. If you can't think of one, I'll say one. It might stir your memory.
No. I have one.
Who?
I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
The Battle in Space 2-pack.
Oh, really?
Absolutely pleased with Cyclonus. Not that pleased with that with with Hot Rod.
That's actually not the best. Like, me with Hot Rod. That was not the best.
Yeah, exactly.
Number one, and I have people have seen that picture where it's just like, I can't even show it, but it's like they're all there. Anyways. Yeah. But
I unfortunately cannot get rid of my Hot Rod because Dick Gauthier signed it. So I'm like,
really? He signed the spoiler or something?
No, he didn't sign the spoiler. That's the worst part.
Oh my god!
He signed on the chest. I'm like, oh no.
That's not good. I have Hot Rod toys. That's the only Transformer toys I've ever got signed. It's always got to be the spoiler, because he got that big spoiler. But
I handed it to someone. It was not on my direction.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah.
Of those Hot Rod of the mold, that mold specifically, that one, as someone who's messed with every version of it, that one is loose and it feels cheap. I feel like as they were
really,
yeah, where
because mine is like it feels like I'm holding a small brick.
Oh really? Okay, so you got a good one. Yeah. Jeez, mine's a piece of trash. I don't know. I got a few of them. like the best version, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. Like the Henkei one with the gold spoiler. That's the sexiest one of the bunch. I was just saying at the beginning of the podcast, I don't like repro labels, but if you get repro labels, they have a little sticker for the buzzsaw, so you can actually make it look like a buzzsaw. So you get that one little tiny sticker, put it on the buzzsaw, looks really good. But yeah, so you were disappointed with that one, eh? Yeah, see, and it's funny because that's like that. The Henkei one is like one of my favorite Transformer toys ever made. But that version, yeah, I do agree, is kind of underwhelming in terms of the paint scheme and how it looks and stuff. Yeah. For me, it was Beast Machine's Cheetor, the Mega Class one, the Voyager, I guess.
Oh,
I was so hyped. Like when Beast Machines comes out, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to get the toys for these. So I remember getting Mirage, which was like one of the Viacons. He's like a basic class Viacon, has the gun on his head. Voyager, or whatever you want to call it back then, Mega Scale, Tankor, and Cheetor. And I thought, oh man, Cheetor is going to be so hype and everything. What a piece of trash that toy is. It doesn't even stand. It doesn't even stand. I challenge people like to like get it to stand for like more than like 5 seconds. It's such a terrible. Yours is probably standing because it's leaning on somebody, because that's what mine's doing, you know.
Probably. I'm just trying to find it right now. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, of course. It's and then they tried to fix it with that cat-sized, Supreme scale one, which also was like, okay, sure. That just doesn't go into scale with nobody. I didn't know I needed a Unicron-sized Cheetor toy, but again, it was what it was. But I was so disappointed with that one. That one for a while, it was just like that kind of like soured me on the Beast Machines line, because Tankor was not bad, Mirage was not bad, but that Cheetor was terrible. And then my friend got the Deluxe Optimus Primal, which was terrible. So, and no surprise, that line didn't sell very well, and Hasbro actually had to dial back some of their price points because of how bad the sales were of Beast Machines. But man, like, yeah, that one for sure. That one for sure, 200%. Let's go to another question. If we have to limit ourselves to 1984 and 1987 characters, what do we have? What do you mean, like the pick, I guess? I don't know. Oh, maybe that was something that was asked from somewhere else. I don't know. It was directed.
Oh, okay, because we have a lot of characters to choose from 86 to 87.
Well, there's a lot of really good ones too, especially when you get into the headmasters and stuff, and the target masters too, because that brings back Cup and Blur and everybody. And let me see here. Well, who could you use? Thunderwing, Quintesson, or Deathsaurus? I guess they're referring back to the Burger King question or whatever. Of those three, I don't know. Thunderwing is, you can't trust Thunderwing. Quintessons you can't trust. Deathsaurus is the only one that's kind of.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, Deathsaurus is like the lesser of the three evils.
Like the Quintesson's gonna try to take over, and start selling not burgers anymore. He's gonna start like chemically engineering the burgers so that they're alive to do like terrorist activities. Thunderwing's trying to break into the safe in the office because he heard there's something like valuable in there that he's going to use for himself to take over the whole restaurant. So Deathsaurus is the only one that kind of makes sense because he's kind of like competent in terms of, and I'm basing it off of his Japanese Victory cartoon counterpart, not his IDW or any other versions. Where are we at here? Do you have any Earthrise Quintesson characters? I just have the Quintesson one. I didn't buy the pit yet. I don't have that. That's expensive, that.
Same. I do not have the pit as
much
as I would love to have it. And for people that know me, I was really obsessed with the Quintessons at one point. I even have one of the third-party figures over there.
Impossible Toys ones? Those ones, I assume, yeah. Those.
Yes, I love. But unfortunately, like once I saw the price point for the pit, not more the price point, but the shipping
for
of
Canada.
the pit, I'm going,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry.
We're located on the moon, like I always say when Hasbro has to ship to us. It's like, oh, Canada, yeah, they're right there. They're right above the States, right? Oh, shipping? Okay, well, we got to put it on the space shuttle. And that's going to cost you $80 right there. You know, it's like, oh, God. Where are we at here? Let me see.
Americans don't know how lucky you are.
Yeah, especially when it comes to shipping. Shipping is...
Exactly.
I can't stress that enough. Trying to see, because there's so much people, they're just arguing with each other.
Oh no!
Because they're all answering their own questions, going, "Oh no, that's not good." Someone wrote here, "How to f do you sign a toy?" Well, it really depends. Like, look, when Peter Cullen was signing Optimus Prime toys, it was always the trailer. You know, that just you find a flat surface, like
exactly.
Like again, getting back to Hot Rod, like Hot Rod, especially G1 Hot Rod. Like, actually, I have one right near here. Like, that's a flat spoiler. That's like a nice flat surface that you could just get anything signed. And me, when I sign Transformers, what I like to get signed, personally, me, is the designers of them. I'm not big on getting the voice actors to like. I have this obsession where if the voice actor is going to sign something, it's something that he created. So like when I got Scott McNeil to sign stuff, it's like DVD covers or obviously like, you know, lithographs and stuff like that too. But it's always like something that they had a hand in the same way that you would get like a comic artist to sign a comic. With the toys, it's always the engineers. If we have, you know, Yoke-san, who's like the guy who worked with the original Microman and Diaclone stuff. If you have, they had a Hideaki, oh my God, what was his fucking name? He worked on the Beast Wars 2nd stuff. He was at like this small little convention that I was at because he did Super Robot stuff. You know, like I bring stuff that to get signed from those dudes. But there, you know, obviously I do understand your plight. Like Beast Wars toys must be a nightmare to get signed because what is a flat surface on those things? But when you're talking cars, you know, most cars have one flat panel somewhere, a hood like you did with Hot Rod. You know, there's somewhere. Yeah, but I can understand like, you know, bringing like Beast Wars Dinobot, the deluxe toy, to like, you know, Scott McNeil, and going like sign it, and you go where the tail. You know?
Oh, he found a way.
Oh, did he?
He signs the tail.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, because the tail is the only place I could even think of that it would work.
Yeah, he was able to sign it perfectly. Unfortunately, when I brought him my Transmetal Rat Trap, actually I brought it with me. He grabbed it. He signed the wheel.
Oh God! With
and I'm going,
the frickin'...
I can never touch it again.
That stupid toy.
There's a lot of signed toys that I can never touch again because of these guys.
Especially Transmetals. Like if you sign right on that chrome, you're doomed.
Exactly.
What was the name of the voice actor that did Jetstorm? That was Brian Drummond. Like if you get him to sign the Ultra Class toy, you're screwed. Like that thing just peels to pieces. No. You lose the autograph.
I thankfully have the deluxe one. Yeah. I'm never getting that.
Yeah, the Ultra Class is terrible. That toy, and not engineering. Like there's not a single one of them. My own personal one I own that's not like falling apart. The chest just flakes to white, like it's like white plastic under there, and it's because they didn't seal it. According to Aaron Archer, he said because some, like anyone who owns Transmetal Cheetor, he'll never flake. The chrome will never flake because they sealed the chrome. Some of them they just didn't seal it, and they're just terrible toys to touch. Like Rat Trap, you just touch them, you look at your fingers, and you're like, "What's going on here?" Terrible.
I'm thankfully my Rat Trap is mostly intact.
Just don't. Well, mine is too. My third one, but mine is too because I just don't touch it.
Exactly. The only time I would ever touch it is that if I have to rearrange my collection of just like.
Yeah. Oh like yeah. That. Like, well, that was me with Beast Wars Megatron Transmetal. That's probably like one of the most fragile toys. No. That's one you don't mess with. We'll take a few more questions and then we'll call it quits for the day because we're coming up on the 2-hour mark. What is your favorite Megatron? Oh, that one's too easy. Even I could guess that for you.
Oh,
yeah, that's
my.
too easy.
Yeah.
We
It's
share
too
that
easy.
one. David K.
Mm-hmm.
David K is not just the best Megatron, but one of the best voice actors in all of Transformers. So, season 2, David K. Beast Wars Megatron Transmetal is as good as it gets for any kind of storytelling, let alone Transformers. I mean, I've said this before I think on another stream. For the longest time, like one of the very first comic books I ever read as a kid was Infinity Gauntlet. And after watching Beast Wars, every time I would go back and reread those books, David K's voice was Thanos for me forever, because it was just like, here's this megalomaniac purple face. Like, there was just something there. And now obviously, you know, Brolin, whatever his name is, who did the Infinity War movies, like now that's kind of but for the longest time it was like I was reading it like, you know, oh death, I wish that we could get the gauntlet, you know, like I was hearing his voice when it was like Thanos Quest issues 1 and 2, which is a really good comic to read if you want to like learn more about Thanos. That's Jim Starlin and Ron Lim, 2 extremely talented comic book creators. But yeah, both of us, it's gonna be Beast Wars Megatron. If we, you know what, if he's disqualified and we're not allowed to pick, I'll go with Frank Welker, just because he did a good job. Like,
oh, okay.
I'll say why. Because whenever he would insult Starscream, it was very quotable. You know, like oh, Starscream, you were such a fool that I'd relegate you to the ranks of underling. You know, like, or like he would, I don't know, he would have good comebacks when he would diss Starscream, and they were very memorable. Where, like, no offense to the rest of the Decepticons in G1, most of them, if it wasn't Starscream, it wasn't really that memorable. It's like, you know, maybe like not Shockwave, Skywarp, you know, Perceptor, let's see what you, not Perceptor, Reflector, let's see what you could see. Like, you know, that's like his one famous line, you know. But yeah, I'll go with Frank Welker with that version specifically.
I would go with the animated Megatron.
Jesus
Corey
Christ,
Burton,
how could I forget that one?
It is one of the best Megatrons I have ever heard. And again, like, I remember it was so funny. I was listening to a podcast that had David K in it last week, and there was a story about like how he thought he was going to be Megatron again, and it turns out he got the part for Prime. And then realizing, oh, Corey Burton is going to be me. There was a point where he admitted that, like, when Sue Blue was saying, like, okay, Megatron, and David was going to say a line, it's like, no, not you, Corey.
No, and that's another credit to David K about being such a great voice actor, is he did both. He did Optimus and he did Megatron, where, you know, Frank Welker can't say that. You know, technically, Gary Chalk could say that because he had to fill in for a G1 Megatron for like one scene, you know, for a couple of lines, and he was trying to channel his best Frank Welker, I guess. But yeah, David K, man, you know, how many episodes of different Megatrons throughout the years of the Unicron trilogy and Beast Wars, and then doing an Optimus Prime that's loved by many people because animated is in like that top 3 of series. Yes, for sure. We had a funny one. Where was that question? Here, Ninjatron wants to know. This is the one I have to mention that it's Ninjatron because. Question for Christina: who does the best TFCon panels? And be honest.
Oh no, you're terrible. Yeah. Oh no.
Don't count me. Don't count me.
I'm not counting you. Can't. Don't.
I retired from panels.
You're very. You are very disqualified from my choosing. Aside from the voice actor panels, because understandably I would love them. Favorite panelist, yeah, it would have to be you, Ninjatron.
Maybe I shouldn't have.
Because you're the only person that I know that actually covers the Hispanic side of Transformers, and no one else has. South American stuff. Yep. Yeah, South American and Mexico.
The Argentinian exclusives.
So I will give.
That's what you need. If you like brawn, you got to get like one of those South American brawns, which have those weird colors and stuff.
I wish, but
they're expensive.
Oh man,
yeah,
I don't know how much money
I've been trying to collect those for years. They're expensive. They are so expensive.
I want to get all the IGA stuff, but it's like, oh, I guess not.
What was another good one?
Maybe.
Any generation selects predictions for Kingdom? I have a few, but what do you think?
What haven't we covered at this point?
Well, because let's put it this way: selects figures are going to be repaints of pre-existing molds. So just pretty much take it from there. I mean, I'll throw one out there right now. I think we're going to get a Shadow Panther from Cheetor for sure. 200%. Like they did it with if they did it with the Masterpiece, which is going to be a way more expensive production to do. I think like almost every Cheetor mold more or less has had a black repaint. Like at some point, like a Tripredicus agent, or even if it's not intended to be a Shadow Panther character, you'll have like a Knight/Cheetor. You'll have like something like that. Not every Cheetor, like obviously like the Cyberverse one hasn't been repainted yet, if it ever will be, but in general they do. So for sure we're going to get a Generation Selects Shadow Panther at some point.
Yeah, we're speaking of like repaints. Obviously I want the Megatron to be repainted to T-Rex. Hopefully that the upcoming Dinobot will be repainted to Grimlock, because that's one of my favorite repaints.
And especially in the case of like when you talk about like the Megatron mold, what else do you do? Think about it. Like what else could you do with that mold? There's not much you can do with it, so it would have to be T-Rex from the Dinobots line from Beast Machines, for people who don't know. And in the case of Dinobot, the reason why I want that to happen, because now we don't have a toy that'll crumble to pieces because of the GPS.
Exactly.
I recently bought a collection, and it has a near perfect gold plastic Grimlock from Beast Wars, and I had to like wrap it in what is it called there, toilet paper, and then I put it in a box, and I have to bring it to one of the parts parties. But I don't know who's going to want to buy something that's going to explode after they buy it, which I'm not responsible. I've sold one. I sold one in the past. I got one mint condition. I think I sold it to Malwave, because they're so rare to find in perfect condition. I destroyed my own. What do you think we will see in Transformers media after Kingdom? Do you think they will stick with short seasons, bingeable format, or go to a 26 episode, 10-minute season like Cyberverse? What do you think?
So for now they're going to keep sticking with bingeable. I know that in some Western cartoons they're starting to go back to the 26-minute format. I love that this is being brought up, because I know that there are some Netflix cartoons that you can actually binge upon per season, but because of the way how they're written, that it is intended to be consumed maybe once a day or once a week. One of the biggest examples would be Kipo, Green Eggs and Ham, which I recently watched, and it was absolutely excellent. It's actually starting to go back to what it used to be. But in the case of Transformers, I don't think we're going to see anything of a 26-minute format for at least a while. After, I think they're going to see how it's going to be with Kingdom, and if it's successful enough, they're going to keep going with the same formula until it stops.
I firmly believe that what we were used to in terms of how content was being distributed, in terms of like, okay, Transformers TV series found on television, on network, blah blah blah, the reality is that the Siege TV series, regardless of what people think of it, when it debuted, it was trending top 5 for I think like 2 days. So that told them something. So I'm not saying it's going to keep that for, like, let's say Earthrise, but it gave Netflix confidence to go, okay, maybe we need to push for more exclusivity of the next series. So now we have Earthrise that's going to be coming. I don't know what the date is. I don't know if they gave us a date. But we have the Earthrise series coming through Netflix. If that also gets great viewership and actually hits that, like, top 5 trending bar, which is, for what people don't know, when you go on Netflix, tells you what's the most watched stuff by people at that moment. When Siege came out, it was killing it initially. And so if Earthrise does the same, then Netflix is probably going to go, yo, we really want to lock in on some stuff. It wasn't just like a one-hit wonder that people were just curious. And I think that that will be the primary focus of how we'll get our Transformer media outside of movies. Like movies is a whole other animal.
And
So
mhm.
that's that.
until
Go ahead.
until they finally have something formed with E1. I know they're doing that with their Power Rangers stuff. So it could change. But it looks like it's going to be a relationship with Hasbro and Netflix for their
Well,
Transformers stuff.
I've always felt that, and I've discussed this with Jaws D on the podcast. I've always felt that when that E1 merger happened, that was like, and we've said this many times because like he knows like the entertainment side of it, especially when it comes to like the music industry and everything, and he's like, they're gonna make another streaming service. Like you feel like they're building a library for something, in the same way that like when Disney bought Marvel and then they bought Star Wars and then oh here comes Disney Plus. Like imagine if Disney Plus didn't have Marvel and Star Wars. It would just be a very small streaming service of their things, and I think they have National Geographic's like the fourth part of it or something. I don't have it personally,
Yes.
so I don't know. But so it's the same thing where
I have Disney Plus strictly for my father, so
there you go. So it's something that I feel that they're building towards some kind of streaming service where one day that's how you're going to get your Transformer media. In the same way that look when and granted it's not the best example, but when the Hub debuted all those years ago, before it that messed up, that was like too soon for Hasbro. I think they were like too ahead of the curve. If the Hub was a streaming service, they would have done well. But
yeah.
it's just when the Hub came out, they were just going like, hey, here's all of G1, here's all of Beast Wars, here's all of Gem and the Holograms and My Little Pony. Like they were doing stuff like that back then before the E1 merger. Now they have the E1 merger. Now they have Pup Patrol, Caillou, like, and I know I'm forgetting stuff. Like there's all these other like smaller preschool brands that have all this weight, and then all the music stuff. So they own Wu-Tang Clan and all this stuff where they could do like music video kind of streaming stuff and everything, and documentaries, which do very well on Netflix. It's always like, oh, what's the next hot documentary to check out? You know, like when they did The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. You know, it was just like, oh, that was so. Now they have all these different platforms that they could build a streaming service, and whatever they call it, you know, they could do like a behind the music with all the music stuff that they own and have access to all that footage and everything and music library. So I could see that's just me going like, in 5 years, no joke, Hasbro's going to be a streaming service, and that's how you're going to get your Transformer media outside of movies. That'll be in theaters.
It's gonna do really well, because right now, by 2021, hopefully 2022, that's when HBO Max finally starts hitting the ground. Disney Plus is already on its second year. Paramount Plus is happening, and I believe there is going to be another streaming service, but I don't know who it is yet.
Hold on a second. You caught me there. Paramount Plus, that's going to be a thing?
Yes, Paramount.
So that means
the
Transformer movies will be exclusively on that? Oh, man.
Yes.
Oh, boy. Okay.
CBS All Access is being reformatted to Paramount Plus. That was what Viacom announced as of last month. Well, yeah.
It's going to get to a point, I'm telling you, people are going to have like 20 streaming services that's going to be more expensive than having cable. Like having a satellite or something. Oh, my God.
It's that Rick and Morty quote. It's like cable, but extra steps.
Yeah. Now you have to open up, close an app, open up another app, do a search for your show that you're looking for, instead of just typing a channel and then PVRing it or something. Oh my God, it's gonna get. See that's why I'm not a big TV person. I'm not a big TV person because I just it's too much.
That Wild West era of streaming services.
Well, I'm not like, even with streaming services, like I'm so behind. Like Mandalorian, I watched like 3 episodes, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like. There's so much that's coming at you, and here's me going like, man, there's like old Nintendo games from 1987 I still want to play, you know, and I'm like, no joke. Fanzactu, I think that's how it's pronounced. I've been playing that recently, which is like a super old Nintendo game, and it's just because I never got to rent it as a kid, so it's like now I'm revisiting it for the first time, you know, it's new to me. You know, instead of like, you know, buying like expensive PlayStation games. Yeah. But that's why. So it's I constantly say this. Life is too short. Life is too short. There's so much cool shit to find and enjoy that life is way too short. Like there's just so much, and that's why like I feel like that's why I don't want to waste my time with a lot of TV shows, because it's like, oh man, you got to watch this show, and then I go, 26 episodes, they're an hour each. That's 26 hours of my life that could be used for anything else. Fans act adieu. Thank you, Rodimus Primal. I every time I look at the name, I'm just like, Zelda clone. That's what it's called to me. It's just a really good game. It's just I like it. I don't know why I really like it. It's really fun. But yeah, so he says, so we go pirate mode. Yeah, maybe. That's kind of how I watched Mandalorian. I'm just saying. You know, like I can't be bothered with those kind of streaming services. Like to me, it's if I get them for free, that's fine. You know, like if someone gives me their code or something, which is kind of how have Netflix, you know, because I don't use Netflix. Like if you went on if you logged on my Netflix and you went to like, you know, what was recently watched, you're going to see like two things. It's going to be like Toys That Made Us, and then me going through like old Super Mario Brothers Super Show episodes or something, you know, like it's like, where's the Elvira episode? You want to see that one? You know, like it's just, there's not much stuff that I enjoy on that kind of content, because for me, I don't know, maybe because I grew up a big gaming kid. I enjoy interacting with my content more than just consuming it. And if I do consume content, I want to be creative with it. So it's like, it's something where, like if I watch a lot of Transformers, I want to write about Transformers. I want to discuss about Transformers. Mm-hmm. So it's, I don't know, it's something that I've always been like that, where I always want to be a part of the action. Like if I enjoy like a card game like Magic the Gathering, I want to be a part of that in a way, you know. Let's see. Let me see what some other questions here before we go. We're already over 5 minutes. We'll take one more question. One more, and then we'll call it. We're already at 10 o'clock. People are talking about Super Mario Brothers 3. I got that. I got it when it came out too. Game. My grandmother picked it up for me. Love that game.
It was honestly like I've seen my father do speed runs of it like many times.
Does he use the whistle?
And I still cannot.
Does he use the whistle? Okay.
Yes, he does.
That's how it speed runs. But if he does it without the whistle, then I'm even more impressed. But because that's a lot of time.
I see him do it. I see him do it without the whistle. He got to World 8 in like less than like 15 minutes. I'm going, how the heck did you do this? I have no idea
how he did that. I don't think that's possible, but okay.
That's
I don't know. Because World 5, which is the sky level, that's pretty time consuming. All right.
Yeah.
The final question is, did Beast Wars Scorponok die fast and sexy? I think
fast, yes.
No,
sexy, no.
I think they were just kind of going like, we're gonna have a Scorpion character in Quick Strike, so we don't want to mix that up, you know, because we're gonna have a Scorpion here, Scorpion there. So I think that's one of the reasons why Scorponok was taken out of the equation. Number two, I think that Inferno was kind of taking the role of Suck Up too much, and he was a more interesting character. So that's another reason why Scorponok wasn't needed. And number three, outside of that McDonald's toy, there was no plans of another Scorponok toy. You know, where at least Pterosaur got a Transmetal toy, you know, even though it wasn't going to be used. You know, so it's like, actually I have right nearby here, I have the McDonald's. Let me pull him out. I always keep him nearby because he's such a simple design. The Transmetal 1 Dinobot. But either way. But yeah, I think that I mean, Don Brown, he didn't have any other roles, so unfortunately for him, he ended up being unemployed because of it. Where, you know, some other characters, if they got killed off, it's like, you know, hey, we kill off Dinobot, you still got Rat Trap, Silverbolt, you know, Waspinator, you know, like Scott McNeil was fine, you know. So, but in the case of Don Brown, who did Scorponok's voice, when that character got killed off, that's all she wrote. You know, he was done for the show. So that kind of sucks.
He was done for the show and ended up doing a lot more anime after that. So
he did. He was what do you call it? He was Hercule in
He was Hercule
Dragon
in
Ball.
the
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z dub. Yes.
Yeah, and to my knowledge, was he Demolishor in Armada? Or is that someone else? Just sounds familiar. You might have to look. Someone correct us.
I will have to.
He sounds could be him.
Just looked.
Hold on a second. I'm reading what someone wrote here. Will you get a Slag plus Daniel for free? Hope for all the motives. He's referring to the studios. Yeah. Studio Series is doing a Transformers Slag with Daniel 2-pack. I think it's a coincidence at most. If it's or
Totally
I don't know. It's because it's weird that they're doing that. Because like Daniel isn't really.
I mean,
Daniel isn't associated with Slag ever, so why would they put a box set with him? It's very weird.
If there is a Daniel, that means a Spike is coming, and I might need that.
I'm curious how they're going to do those human figures, though, because the wheelie was not bad for an accessory. So if the human figures look nice, because usually all the human figures thus far have always been like very Diclon sized and very simple. But yeah, that's it more or less, guys. Again, thank you to Symbiote Studios for sponsoring the podcast. So once again, symbiotestudios.com. Get your let me reach Optimus here. Get your Transformer plush, Transformer pins, Transformer t-shirts. They provide all the cool stuff for us. Officially licensed by Hasbro. Thanks for Hasbro for sponsoring too with Symbiote Studios. Thanks again to Ener-Con for throwing this all together to just do a little hangout and talk about being a fan and everything. Thanks to everyone who came into the chat. And once again, if you're interested in helping out the podcast, we got a Patreon. We got that join button below. Come join that stuff. Help me pay for all this gear to get all this going. She was lagging probably because of me. Let's put it this way. Don't blame her. It probably was my fault. Maybe I could have had a stronger connection. But the point is that, thanks again, everyone, for coming. And as always, like I always say, roll out.